It has become prevalent from time and time again uh, that facial recognition and being tracked wherever you go has been more prevalent than ever before. Now, when it comes to facial recognition, you see that everywhere. In places like China, where facial recognition is everywhere from what I heard and what I read, they have like these supercomputers and these cameras that track you wherever you go, and we're put in a database system. So and it's actually known for tracking us and collecting data on us. Places like Google and Facebook are very well known for that, and you can be tracked wherever you go, whether it's using Facebook, using Google, where they sell your data, collecting private information on after collecting private information on you, which is sold to other companies like Verizon and AT&T and many other corporations out there, so on and so forth. And what's the irony is that even if you get rid of those, from what I actually found out years ago, that wiretapping and being tracked even exists through electrical outlets that you have on the walls where you plug in your electronic devices. Yeah, those things they can actually. I mean, apparently, they're you're being wiretapped even through electronic devices, electric outlets, and it's a little weird how people are always under this idea that I have nothing to fear, therefore I have nothing to hide. I mean, if you have nothing to hide, would you want to live in a house made out of glass where people can see what you're doing 24/7? I don't think that's a good idea, really. And I find it so weird how they say that, this is apparently for our security, Pentagon, FBI, I guess whatever, CIA, whatever is listening into every conversation you're saying. They're wiretapping you. I mean, this is not to prevent terrorist attacks at all, because according to the Patriot Act, the potential terrorist suspects are the American citizens themselves. It said so in the Patriot Act as well as the third extension known as the Victory Act, and has also been mentioned in some parts of the NDAA, also known as the National Defense Authorization Act. So really, with that being said, I hate how people think that it's totally okay to just say like, oh, we don't care about this kind of stuff. People don't seem to care. Facial recognition through Instagram and social media, Facebook, and you have Google and Google Hangouts, and even through video chats and video calls, they have biometrics that measure your face, and they collect data and information on you. And this is what results to facial recognition. Measuring all the biometrics and everything and all this stuff. And even with the iPhone 11, it has facial recognition and it tracks you wherever you go. Even if your phone is like in the other room and you're in the opposite room, it's still apparently, from what I heard, it tracks you wherever you go. They have a very advanced tracking system with the iPhone 11, and they have and their technological advancement in facial recognition is top notch. Now that doesn't bode well for us American citizens out there. And the fact that we have people in Sweden who voluntarily put microchips inside their arm just so they can pay by scanning their wrist or scanning their arm. They do it for the sake of convenience and they do it for kicks, but they've voluntarily enslaved themselves to the system. So Sweden is now the first country in the entire world that has become a cashless society. So who needs credit cards and who needs cash? Just scan yourself like some cheap, worthless receipt, and you're good to go. You could buy whatever you want. So now it's going to be a lot easier to have your medical records and all your private information and all the secret things that you talk about, as well as, what you look up and what you browse through. And you're a slave and you're property to the government. Now, what happened to freedom exactly? I don't really get that. Where did freedom go? And they do this for what? So that, so you could be safe from terrorist attacks? I don't see how it's keeping us safe when we're being wiretapped and tracked and having the Pentagon and other, government entities wiretapping us 24/7 through phone calls. I don't see how that's safe. I really don't, honestly. So with that being said, and let's not forget another thing. A couple of years ago when Obama was still president, there was a bill that this Republican attempted to pass, and he proposed this bill, by the way, where he actually insisted that under this new law, that it should be mandatory for Americans themselves to have microchips inserted into their arms for security reasons, to protect us from potential terrorist attacks. Now, last I checked, animals, when they get microchipped, it's either to find a missing dog because they have it microchipped in its collar, or my animals are usually microchipped right before they go into the slaughterhouse. So if we're living in a day and age where we're being microchipped, where if it's going to come down to being microchipped, like a bunch of animals prior to going to the slaughterhouse, then that means freedom will cease to exist if this becomes the norm. And I don't support that. And get this, the Republican who himself actually insisted on having a mandatory Americans being for them to be microchipped. Not only did he see it as something mandatory, but he himself refused to have a microchip implanted inside his arm. And the fact that people are doing this in Sweden and it's considered the normal thing now, that comes to show you that they don't have any free will, that they're giving up their freedom. They're giving up their privacy. It's a privilege and it's a gift for us to have privacy. And this is a human instinct to have privacy. We have secrets that we don't want to share with others. We don't want our medical information exposed to others, and we don't want our social security to be found so quickly. So why would we want our private personal information to be exposed just at the tip of your fingers through a Google search? Why wouldn't we want that? And believe me, any law-abiding citizen would never co-sign with a ridiculous idea such as being microchipped in their arms. You can be a law-abiding citizen, but I'm pretty sure that's a law every citizen's willing to break. So put down your 2 cents and tell me that I'm wrong.